As thousands of refugees and migrants flee conflict zones in the Middle East and Africa, there are growing calls to do something and take them in, well beyond Europe. CCTV's Jim Spellman has more.
The U.S. has historically welcomed refugees, but so far has only taken in about 1,500 Syrians during 4 years of civil war. That, according to the International Rescue Committee, an NGO that promotes refugee resettlement.
If you're asking, should the United States be playing a role alongside the European Union, my answer would be a very strong yes.
The IRC is calling on the U.S. to take in 65,000 refugees by the end of next year. As of last week, the White House was not signaling major changes.
But I'm not aware of any impending policy change as it relates to immigrants from that region of the world entering the United States.
Persian Gulf states are also facing pressure.
The Gulf, for this situation, particularly for Syrians, it makes so much sense. They would be in a region, in a culture that's more familiar to them, speaking a language that they are familiar with. They wouldn't have to travel as far.
But Gulf countries are not part of the 1951 United Nations agreement that governs refugees. Anyone migrating to those countries would need to apply for a visa, hardly practical and rarely granted by Arab authorities. But Gulf states, especially Kuwait, have donated large sums of money to support humanitarian relief in Syria.
There's a lot that the Arab Gulf states have done that has not been recognized by the international community. I don't think anybody, any country, any states have helped the Syrian refugee more so than the Arab Gulf states.
Australia caps refugees at 13,750 per year. Prime Minister Tony Abbott says he will allow more Syrians into that group, but is rejecting calls to increase the total number. On Monday, the Chinese news agency Xinhua published an opinion piece arguing that the U.S. should take in more of these refugees because U.S. military action over the last decade or so had destabilized Syria and much of the Middle East. It's the Labor Day holiday here in Washington, and the White House has not responded, but we are likely to see growing calls for the U.S. to take on a greater role in this crisis. Jim Spellman, CCTV, Washington.